Most people think the gap between them and wealthy people is money. It's not. It's decisions, specifically 10 of them. And here's what's strange. None of them require a raise, a windfall, or a lucky break. Some of them will sound almost too obvious, but if they're so obvious, why is the average American carrying over $6,000 in credit card debt while their savings account earns next to nothing? I'll get to the move that changed everything for me. But first, you need to understand why most people stay financially stuck no matter how much they earn. It's not income. It's not intelligence. It's something quieter. Something happening in the small, invisible decisions you make every single week. And by the end of this video, you're going to see those decisions differently than you did 5 minutes ago. Let's get into it. The first move is one almost nobody talks about because it sounds boring. Automate your savings before you feel it. Not after bills, not whatever's left over. Before. You set a transfer to pull money the same day your paycheck lands, before your brain registers it as available. And suddenly you stop feeling like you're saving. You're just living on the rest. This one behavioral tweak is responsible for more quietly wealthy people than any investment strategy ever invented. Your brain can't spend what it never sees. The second move is tracking your net worth, not your income. Your income is what you earn. Your net worth is what you're actually building. These two numbers can look nothing alike. Someone making $120,000 a year and spending $118,000 is financially fragile. Someone making $60,000 and stacking assets quietly is building real security. The moment you start watching your net worth climb instead of just waiting for a bigger paycheck, your entire relationship with money shifts. Open a spreadsheet. Do it once a month. That's it. You'll start making different decisions automatically because you're watching the scoreboard that actually matters. Move 3 is the one that feels counterintuitive until you live it. Stop trying to optimize your spending and start trying to optimize your earning. There's a ceiling on how much you can cut. There is no ceiling on what you can earn. If you've already trimmed the obvious stuff, the subscriptions, the takeout, the impulse buys, and you're still not building wealth fast enough, the problem isn't your latte. The problem is that you've been playing a game with a fixed pot. Learn one high-value skill, build a second income stream, ask for a raise you've been scared to ask for. The ROI on increasing your income is almost always higher than squeezing another $50 out of your grocery budget. The fourth move, build an emergency fund that's actually an emergency fund. Not a "I really want those concert tickets" fund. A real one. 3 to 6 months of expenses, sitting somewhere boring. A high-yield savings account, not your checking account, not the market. The reason this matters financially isn't just protection, it's psychology. When you have a real cushion, you stop making panicked decisions. You don't sell investments at the bottom. You don't take a bad job because you're desperate. The emergency fund isn't just money, it's decision-making clarity. And clarity is worth more than almost any investment. Move 5. Understand the difference between good debt and debt that's slowly killing you. A mortgage on a reasonably priced home in a growing area can be a tool. A credit card at 24% APR is a leak. Most people carry both and treat them the same way, as just debt. They're not the same. If you have high-interest consumer debt sitting next to investments you're proud of, do the math. A 7% market return doesn't win against a 22% credit card. Pay off the bleeding first. This isn't complicated, but it requires you to be honest about what you're actually holding. Here's where it gets interesting, and this is the move most people skip because it feels like it's for later. Invest consistently even when the market looks terrifying. In his book, The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel makes a point that sounds simple until you really absorb it. The best investment strategy isn't the most sophisticated one. It's the one you can actually stick with when things get scary. Ordinary people who bought index funds in 2009, sat on their hands, and did nothing, are now sitting on portfolios that changed their family's financial trajectory. Not because they were smart, because they didn't panic. Time in the market beats timing the market. Every time, without exception. Move 7. Protect what you're building. Life insurance if people depend on you. Disability insurance because your income is your biggest asset and most people never insure it. An umbrella policy if you're starting to accumulate real wealth. Most people spend years building something and leave it completely exposed because insurance feels like spending money on nothing until the day it isn't nothing. One catastrophic event with no coverage can erase a decade of progress in 60 days. The eighth move is the one that changes your income ceiling permanently. Invest in your own knowledge and skills aggressively, not passively, aggressively. The highest return investment most people in their 30s can make isn't the S&P 500. It's developing a skill that makes them significantly more valuable professionally. A certification that opens a new income tier. A course that teaches them to build something. The compound interest on knowledge is real, and it pays dividends in ways that never show up in a brokerage account. Promotions, opportunities, credibility, and the ability to earn through almost any economic condition. If this kind of thinking resonates with you, drop a comment below. I want to know which of these moves you're actually working on right now. Move 9. Build relationships with people who handle money differently than most. This one sounds soft. It isn't. Your financial habits are deeply shaped by your environment, by what the people closest to you think is normal. If everyone in your circle brags about their car payments and laughs at anyone who tracks their spending, that becomes your baseline. But if you get close to one person who's quietly building wealth, who talks about net worth like it's a natural thing, who reinvests instead of upgrades, their thinking starts to rewire yours. You don't have to ditch your friends. Just add people to your life who treat money differently. And the 10th move? The one nobody talks about because it sounds too slow, too undramatic, too unsexy for a world obsessed with overnight wins. Is this: stay consistent for longer than feels necessary. Most people quit right before the compounding kicks in. They save for 2 years, don't feel rich yet, and slowly slide back into old habits. But wealth doesn't reward intensity. It rewards duration. The 35-year-old who started boring and steady at 25 is in a completely different financial universe than the one who kept waiting for the right moment, the right market, the right year. The right moment was last year. The second best moment is right now. Here's the real thing underneath all of this. The 99% aren't losing because they're lazy or uneducated or unlucky. They're losing because nobody ever handed them a different framework for thinking about money. They were handed the same playbook as everyone else: work hard, spend what you earn, hope it works out, and they're playing by rules designed to keep the money moving away from them. These 10 moves aren't secrets. They're just rare. Rare because they require patience, because they don't come with a dopamine hit the day you start them, because the results take long enough to feel invisible before they become undeniable. But the people playing this game quietly, the ones you'd never guess are building real wealth, they're not smarter than you. They're just a few decisions ahead of you. And now you know what those decisions are. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now and share this video to your dear ones who need this. I'll see you in the next one.